Thanks so much, Pablo. Anne, take it away.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for the invitation to this workshop, seminar, conference. I think it's very timely and a very important discussion about sustainability in hydropower. I just want to mention that I have kind of two hats today, and my main hat is from EURELECTRIC, that's the European Electricity Association, where I'm representing Norway or Renewables Norway in one of the committees, the Generation and Environment Committee. But I also work in Statkraft and am responsible for EU policies in Statkraft. But the main thing is EURELECTRIC, that's also why this is here. Hydropower is one of the important issues we work with, both EURELECTRIC as one of the many technologies they represent, and for us as Statkraft as a large hydropower producer, it's of course also an important issue in Brussels. EU has bold targets for renewables. That started with the comprehensive European Green Deal and Fit for 55 package, which we already have seen. And it was even strengthened with the Repower EU, which was EU's immediate answer on the aggressive actions by war from Russia against Ukraine. Like that? Better? Better now? EU says very clearly, the Commission says very clearly that renewables are the answer to both energy security, which we need to improve in Europe after gas from Russia fell away, and against climate change. We see an enormous growth in renewables. We have seen that already, but the targets for renewables have been increased a lot, and you see that in that graph. That will be mainly in wind and solar, but also in hydropower, according to the Commission's own estimates. More renewables require more flexibility. And this is, so we need flexibility both for the system stability and as backup for times when the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine. Hydropower plays an essential role in providing flexibility. We have illustrated that with this bathtub where the hydro can be adjusted up and down the water to support the stability of the other renewables and the integration of more renewables into the system. I think, was it one example already how much in Nepal, how much other renewables can be integrated into the system by 1 megawatt, for example, of hydropower. So it's a big integrator, which is even more important when we need to grow that much in renewables. So we need all types of flexibility in the system. And there's several sources for flexibility, which you see along the vertical column here. Grid expansion, for example, can reduce the need for flexibility, can transport more electricity from one place to another to the area need, but it could also imply curtailment, and it takes long and is very expensive. The demand side does provide flexibility to reduce demand in times of scarcity or when there's little supply. That can be done, but it's usually only effective for hours, maybe days, but not over a long period. The generation side, in most countries, the main source for flexibility has been fossil fuel-fired power plants. Those will be phased out in the future and will have to be substituted by something else. And in many other countries, like Norway, for example, the main flexibility source is hydropower. So we need to have more of that. And that is where hydro really comes in. That's mainly the hydropower reservoirs, which can store energy over hours, days, weeks, and months in some countries like Norway, even for years. But we need also other sources, and that's the lowest part, the electricity storage, where hydrogen comes in, which is not yet that mature, but at large growth, and pump storage, which is the main source for hydro flexibility in many European countries also, and batteries. But hydropower is more than flexibility. Hydropower contributes to all three pillars of sustainability. It has one of the lowest levelized costs of energy, electricity, and contributes to competitiveness of our economies. It offers benefits for multi-purposes, water management during times of droughts and floods, water supply to other sectors, and for drinking and tourism, just to mention a few. it contributes to climate mitigation and adaptation, and it contributes to preserving the environment. It is an old technology, but as an old and experienced technology, we have a lot of experience in minimizing impacts on the environment. We cannot always avoid them, and all utilization of energy will have an impact on environment, but we have learned a lot already how to compensate or mitigate. The hydropower sector is, by the way, the largest private sector investing into the improvement of water bodies without being the only causer of that impact. But power production is about dilemmas, and that's something we have heard about before as well, and sustainability is also about dilemmas. The three pillars here balance different concerns against each other, but there's no way that we can avoid to make those choices. What we can say from the hydropower sector is that with regard to climate and the environment, we follow the three-footed approach of avoid, restore, create. And let me show you some examples from that. Those are mainly examples from Statkraft, but they're illustrative for what other companies do in other countries. This is an example for how we avoid distinction through proactive measures. In addition to fish hatcheries, or hatcheries for fish stocking, Statkraft in Norway also operates a live gene bank for salmon to safeguard the biological diversity. This is done in cooperation with the Environmental Directorate. There are many factors which, besides hydropower, which are stressing the salmon stock. It's not only electricity generation. So the gene bank contributes to enable the re-establishment of the salmon in rivers where it has been extinct, for example, caused by different types of measures and also diseases. It hosts gene material from a few, 5, I think, different wild salmon stocks or species. And you see that what we do is to kind of harvest the gene material for the hatchery. You see a picture of the hatchery, the gene bank facility, and then a 30 kilos salmon caught in the Alta River. The next example is how we restore habitat and species impacted by hydropower, because in some rivers there are impacts, of course, of the fish in the rivers. So we have hatcheries where we start with planting salmon roe, then we grow the fish, and then we have the smolt in the local water for acclimatization. This helps to inform or shape the salmon smolt and improves the survival and return rate. And the last example is about creating. Here we create continuity in water bodies where the distortion can have been caused by others also. We redesign the weirs to improve the connectivity and the fish habitat. This results in better environment without reducing the flow or production. So that's a very attractive measurement to do. It's important to note that the largest part of the obsolete barriers, which we have heard about also, does not come from hydropower, but they're there to serve other purposes. There's about 1 million barriers in Europe, and about 50% of them are obsolete. We in the hydropower sector, we support the removal of obsolete barriers. We think they could even be accepted as a compensation for other impacts. And let me say a few words about EU legislation as well, which is the main purpose for EURELECTRIC when they are Europe, to address issues which are important for certain technologies and the electricity sector in EU legislation. We are happy that the latest regulations recognize hydropower as part of the solution if certain requirements are fulfilled. And I will not go through all of them, but I mean, taxonomy regulation, renewables directive, even in the electricity market design work which is being done now, hydropower is recognized as an important sustainable solution which contributes to achieving Europe's climate goals. But still, there are some policy asks. And what EURELECTRIC puts forward, and we fully support, is that it is important that also these sustainability contributions are fully acknowledged. And that needs to be part of the cost-benefit analysis when choosing among the dilemmas which I addressed earlier. Hydropower investments are capital intensive, and it takes a while from the investment decision until we start operation. We need a framework which investors can trust in, otherwise we will not do the required investments. We also need the same streamlining of permitting procedures as other renewables. We want the contributions of flexibility and storage needs to be reflected correctly in the value of hydropower. That is important also to get more flexibility, as I mentioned earlier, which we need a lot of. And lastly, we also ask for the acknowledgement of the multi-purpose benefits of hydropower, and not the least of that will be water management. I was in a conference last week in Brussels where Executive Vice President Timmermans was, and he said, for example, water will be the big issue to come as well, water scarcity. And water management in that context is very important, and hydropower contributes to water management. Thank you very much.